The opulent crystal chandeliers in the grand dining hall of Leernardan hung like frozen waterfalls, casting a cascade of shimmering light that danced across the flawless marble floors, reflecting every gleam and shadow in perfect clarity. The elite of Manhattan gathered there, savoring exquisite dishes with an air of refined poise, their conversations blending into a harmonious chorus of wealth and influence, bouncing off walls adorned with intricate gold leaf. Suddenly, the heavy door swung open, and in stepped a figure who seemed like a spectre from another world, emaciated and weary, with eyes sunken deep into his face. Dressed in ragged garments that spoke of countless sleepless nights on cold park benches, the young man moved toward the magnificent grand piano as if drawn by an invisible force, like a devoted pilgrim nearing the sacred shrine. His voice emerged soft and fragile, slicing through the murmur of voices around him. "May I play the piano in exchange for something to eat?" The response was immediate, and harsher wave of mocking laughter rippling through the room. Heads swiveled, brows arched in scorn, and mouths twisted into expressions of outright revulsion. The restaurant manager was already striding forward, signaling security with a sharp gesture. Not a single person in that lavish space could have foreseen how this intrusion would upend their deepest beliefs about raw talent, human dignity, and the desperate value of a simple meal. Liam Carter had once dominated the world's most prestigious stages, places where these very patrons would shell out fortunes just to sit in the audience. At 27 years old, his fingers still held the ingrained memory of pressing down on smooth ivory keys, even though 3 long years had passed since he last owned a piano of his own. His brown hair, formerly groomed impeccably for sold-out recitals at Carnegie Hall, now fell entangled, unkempt strands framing a face that had once been praised in classical music journals as strikingly evocative and beautiful. Those deep blue eyes, which reviewers had claimed could encompass entire orchestral works, now mirrored the harsh glow of underground subway lights. Where he performed for spare change dropped into a hat. The cruel twist of fate amused him in a bitter way. The very hands that had mastered Rachmaninoff's complex compositions by the tender age of 10 now clumsily held cardboard signs pleading for assistance on street corners. He had been the youngest recipient of a full scholarship to Juilliard, hailed in the New York Times as a modern incarnation of Mozart. But all that glory crumbled when his father's crippling gambling debts demanded payment. Then came his mother's devastating cancer diagnosis, a blow that destroyed not only her life, but everything around it. The mounting medical expenses claimed their home first, then the beloved piano, and finally every last possession. In her final moments, as she lay frail in a hospital bed, she had squeezed his hand tightly and murmured words that became his most treasured inheritance. "Music is more than sustenance, my sweet boy. It will shield you from the depths of hopelessness." He had traded his elegant concert tuxedos for vials of pain-relieving morphine to ease her suffering. He had pawned his gleaming trophies and awards to afford her a measure of peace in those last days. Now, the only items of true worth he carried were a worn, folded photograph of her beaming proudly at his very first recital, and the handwritten original score of Winter Bread, a heartfelt piece he had composed for her during their harshest winter together, when heat was a luxury they could scarcely afford. Evelyn Sterling occupied her reserved table with quiet authority, her manicured fingers idly circling the edge of a crystal wine glass that cost more than many earned in a month. At 30, she ruled corporate boardrooms with the same exacting control she had once applied to drawing a bow across violin strings. As the chief executive of the Sterling Arts Foundation, she was a guardian of cultural heritage, a generous supporter of the arts. Her golden blonde hair was swept into an elegant chignon that whispered of inherited wealth and hard-won influence. Her sleek black Chanel gown conveyed subtle power without effort. Yet hidden behind this polished facade, her soul still pulsed to the rhythm of waltzes in 3/4 time. She had devoted 8 years to the violin, securing first chair in the Philadelphia Youth Orchestra and earning acceptance to the prestigious Curtis Institute of Music. But then her father passed away unexpectedly, and the foundation required a steady hand at the helm. Art shifted from her passion to something she sponsored from afar, measured in donations and endorsements. She observed the frail stranger approaching the piano with a gaze accustomed to evaluating potential through budgets and proposals. However, there was something in his stance, the subtle quiver in his fingers, not born of terror, but of profound yearning that compelled her to lower her glass gently onto the table. Henry Collins had forged his culinary empire on the principle of absolute exclusivity. At 45, he carried his achievements like a suit of impenetrable armor. Every Michelin star was a badge earned in his relentless battle against anything ordinary. His sanctuary of fine dining permitted no disruptions. Even the restrooms had attentive staff, and the coat check enforced a strict attire policy. Under no circumstances did anyone touch the 9-foot Steinway Grand without his explicit approval. That instrument had been graced by the likes of Lang Lang and Martha Argerich, marked by the touch of true legends, not by wanderers drifting in from the streets. Security, he snapped, his command echoing with the unyielding confidence of a man who had never known refusal. Escort him out immediately. George Bellamy had not planned to venture out for dinner that evening. At 62, the retired music critic favored the solitude of his personal library, enveloped by stacks of yellowed reviews and shelves of cherished recordings. But his daughter had persuaded him, worried that he was withdrawing too much from the world, insisting that life was meant to be embraced fully. He sat sipping a fine brandy, lost in memories of an era when classical music held sway over hearts beyond just the aging enthusiasts who clung to season subscriptions. The intruder's humble plea pulled him from his reverie. A spark of recognition flickered in the man's hollow features, tugging at the edges of long-buried recollections. George had penned countless critiques and attended innumerable premieres, but certain performances etched themselves indelibly into one's spirit. He recalled a 12-year-old boy in an ill-fitting tuxedo, unleashing Chopin's Ballade No, one with such fierce intensity that the entire hall had held its collective breath. What was the child's name again? Carter. Liam Carter, the prodigy who had vanished without a trace. The memory hit him like a thunderclap. It was 2003, at Lincoln Center. The young performer had displayed technique that made veteran pianists envious, but it was his profound emotional resonance far beyond his years that truly captivated. George had declared in his review that witnessing Liam Carter was akin to seeing Mozart's spirit inhabit a child's body. That piece had catapulted the boy to fame. Scholarships poured in, sponsors vied for association, recitals sold out in minutes. Then, abruptly, silence. He faded from the classical scene as if erased. Whispers circulated about personal tragedies and financial collapse, but in the rarefied circles of high art, one rarely delved into others' sorrows. George scrutinized the emaciated man now poised before the piano, seeking remnants of that luminous child amid the ravages of hardship. Liam's hands quivered as he confronted the instrument, the shaking stemming not from dread, but from depleted energy and the flood of ingrained habits from endless concerts. Memories surged over him like relentless tides, his mother in the audience at his Juilliard audition. Tears of joy tracing paths down her cheeks as he rendered the lullaby she had sung to him in infancy, his father, before addiction claimed him. Hoisting him triumphantly onto his shoulders after victory in the Van Cliburn Junior competition, the firm, encouraging grip of his mentor's hand, affirming that his talent appeared once in a lifetime. All those pinnacle moments had funneled into this humiliating plea to perform for scraps in a venue where even a glass of water was beyond his means. The stark irony nearly drew a hollow chuckle from him. He had entertained heads of state and crowned monarchs, yet he could scarcely recall his most recent proper meal. "Please," a popular food influencer with millions of followers shouted, her camera already capturing the scene. "Let him play for just 1 minute. It will be captivating." She flashed a playful grin toward her viewers, mentally crafting a viral headline about the destitute musician invading a luxury eatery. Drama was gold in the digital age, and sorrow often outperformed humor in clicks. Henry's face tightened, but he recognized the perils of social media backlash. A single damaging clip could dismantle years of careful branding. 1 minute, he relented, his tone laced with contempt. "Not a heartbeat longer. If you squander our time or tarnish this place, you will be removed without delay." He gestured to the guards, who flanked the piano bench like sentinels ready to act. The dining hall hushed into an expectant quiet, thick with ghoulish interest and thinly veiled derision, much like the scent of costly perfumes lingering in the air. Utensils hovered halfway to lips, dialogues halted abruptly. Every gaze locked onto the gaunt figure as he adjusted the bench with motions that betrayed a lifetime of precision, incongruous with his disheveled appearance. Inside, Liam waged a fierce inner war as his fingers lingered above the keys. Every fiber of his being urged him to flee, to safeguard the fragments of pride he still possessed. But hunger overpowered dignity, and deeper still burned the echo of his mother's enduring legacy. Winter bread had never been shared with the world. He had created it in her waning months, amid days sustained by dry crusts and unwavering optimism, when winter forced impossible choices between medication and warmth. This composition was his ode to her unyielding resilience, a grand testament to enduring against all odds. If he must degrade himself, he would do so authentically, pouring his soul into every note. The sustain pedal engaged with a gentle click. His back aligned instinctively, years of discipline triumphing over recent privations. In that fleeting instant, he transcended his circumstances. He was no longer a destitute soul bartering for food, but a master pianist reborn. His fingers settled into place, and the world around him dissolved. The opening note resonated with crystalline purity, echoing like a solitary chime in a vast cathedral, insisting on reverence and enforcing utter stillness. It lingered, captivating, before the next notes followed, weaving a spell that stole the breath from the room. What unfolded was far beyond the patron's cynical expectations. This was no polished recital from a student or the superficial flair of a lounge entertainer. It was unfiltered sentiment forged into audible form, where agony and splendor merged inseparably, each enhancing the other. The allotted minute slipped by unmarked. Henry's arm, poised to summon the guards, hung suspended. The influencer let her phone drop slightly, her lips parting in astonishment, unshed tears glistening on her flawless makeup. At her table, Evelyn leaned inward unconsciously, her discerning ear detecting layers of intricacy beneath the deceptively straightforward theme. These were not mere tones, they formed a structural masterpiece, each segment constructing upon the previous with flawless logic and heart-wrenching impact. As the music crescendoed, it evoked the chill of winter seeping through cracked walls, the persistent ache of emptiness in one's core. The fierce bond of a mother and son defying insurmountable hardships. Liam's fingers danced across the keyboard with virtuosity that defied his months without practice. Vast octave spans that would daunt advanced students. Intricate polyrhythms demanding utter independence of mind and spirit, dynamic shifts that murmured one moment and thundered the next. This was no mere recital, it was a cathartic release, banishing demons through sound. From the kitchen, a sous chef peeked out, mesmerized. Soon, the entire staff gathered at the doorway, abandoning their posts to behold the miracle unfolding. The influencer, recalling her role, lifted her device once more, holding it steady with newfound respect, sensing she was preserving history. Her online audience flooded the comments with frenzy, but she was transfixed by the metamorphosis at the piano. Liam immersed himself completely, his body gently swaying, his expressions mirroring the music's emotional ebbs and flows. The central portion burst into masterful turmoil, his left hand anchoring a pulsating beat while the right evoked soaring, diving lines akin to birds navigating a tempest. It channeled Rachmaninoff's fervor through Chopin's lyricism, Liszt's prowess in service of Schubert's tenderness, yet it was uniquely his. A voice brimming with urgent truths that words could never convey. The concluding passage emerged in hushed fragility, individual notes falling like sorrowful droplets on stone. The initial theme returned, reborn and exalted, despair transmuted into resolve, fracture into fortified strength. The final chord lingered, embodying both inquiry and resolution, then yielded to profound quiet. No one stirred. No one inhaled. A server froze with a pitcher tilted midstream. A guest at a nearby table had tears carving paths through her cosmetics, her palm clutched over her heart. The guards stood rigid, their stern mien softened into wonder. The hush endured, holy and profound, until George Bellamy rose from his secluded booth. "Good heavens," he uttered, his voice breaking with raw feeling. Trembling, he retrieved his phone and scrolled through archived articles. "I know exactly who you are." He displayed the screen to the room. The bold title read, "Liam Carter, age 12. Performs with the wisdom of ages." The accompanying image depicted a youthful boy in formal attire, the same angular features now etched by adversity, the same eyes brimming with orchestral depths. "This is Liam Carter," George announced, his words trembling with conviction. He was the most extraordinary prodigy of his era. The disclosure spread like a spark through dry tinder. Devices emerged, searches commenced, verifications poured in. The influencer's broadcast skyrocketed in viewership as Winterbread surged in popularity. The clip disseminated globally at lightning speed, eliciting responses from every corner, aficionados praising the mastery, everyday listeners moved by its authenticity. "He vanished after his mother's passing," one murmur rose. "Bankruptcy wiped out his family," another added, citing faded reports. Henry remained rooted, his expression shifting through shock, regret, and dawning realization. The outcast he had nearly expelled was nobility in the realm of music. The dreaded scandal had alchemized into invaluable legend his venue eternally linked to this revival, though not as he had envisioned. Evelyn stood with poised elegance, her footsteps resonating on the marble as she neared the piano. She halted just beyond his sight line, appraising him with a vision honed to spot genius in obscurity. What she perceived was no pitiable figure or marketing ploy, but a creator entombed by fate yet still pulsing with life, clawing toward the surface. "Mr. Carter," she declared, her tone resonant with the command of one who orchestrated fortunes. That was nothing short of magnificent. Liam lifted his gaze, vision blurring as the rush of performance ebbed, confronting his stark reality. Still without home, still ravenous, still clad in attire that branded him an outsider. Henry, scrambling to mend his image, fumbled for his billfold. "Here," he offered, extending a wad of bills. "For your efforts. Please accept it." "No," Evelyn interjected sharply, halting him. She faced Liam, her demeanor warming while retaining poise. "The Sterling Arts Foundation is preparing our yearly international gala in 3 weeks. We have sought a pivotal act to reignite passion for the arts among our supporters." She let the gravity sink in. "I extend to you the chance to audition. Should you succeed, you will headline before 1,500 guests, with orchestral support if desired. The compensation is $50,000. A collective inhale swept the room. Such a sum was remarkable even in elite circles. "There are stipulations," she proceeded. "You must assemble a complete recital, beyond a single work. You will collaborate with our director, Maestro William Zane, in rigorous sessions over 3 weeks. This is no act of pity, Mr. Carter. It is a stake in brilliance that demands an audience." Liam's fingers, still upon the keys, shook anew. 3 weeks of steady food, daily access to an instrument, a bridge to reclaim his identity. "I lack proper attire," he confessed faintly. "No scores, no belongings. Everything essential will be supplied," Evelyn assured. "Your dedication to the art is all we require. Will you commit?" George advanced. "I shall chronicle this, not your trials, but your resurgence. The music community must learn that Liam Carter never truly left. He was merely in waiting." The influencer, broadcasting live, witnessed donations flooding in, but she grasped the deeper truth. This was renewal, not handouts. "Yes," Liam breathed, then with growing assurance, "Yes, I accept." The ensuing 3 weeks pushed Liam to his limits, echoing the survival instincts that had sustained him on the streets. The Foundation's rehearsal studio, with its impeccable sound and a grand Bessendorfer piano, felt like hallowed ground he feared to profane. On the initial day, cramp seized his hands after barely an hour, unused muscles rebelling fiercely. Maestro Zane, a septuagenarian from Hungary whose rigor had shattered many, observed impassively. "You battle the instrument," he noted on the third day. "Cease the fight. Engage in dialogue." They provided a modest apartment near Lincoln Center, unpretentious yet secure, heated and solitary. Liam had not known a true bed in years. That first night, he slept on the hard floor, the softness alien. By the second week, his form adapted to ease. His digits regained vigor. He curated his repertoire thoughtfully, Bach's Goldberg variations for unparalleled skill, Chopin's Ballade No. For profound sentiment, Prokofiev's Sonata No. 7 for contemporary challenge, and an expanded Winter Bred as a concerto scale climax. Time dissolved, sustenance came and went unnoticed. His existence contracted to those 88 keys, once his whole realm. Staff observed his evolution with quiet amazement. The skeletal intruder faded, giving way to a commanding presence that dominated spaces sans a sound. A stylist trimmed his hair, unveiling the sculpted features once coveted by lenses. His bearing uprighted, his touch stabilized, his gaze reignited with vast compositions. Henry, amid escalating publicity, released a crafted apology and launched monthly open stages for emerging talents, offering meals and pledging funds to arts in needy areas. His establishment gained fame as Liam's rebirth site, a savvy pivot to restore goodwill. Coverage exploded. Journals revisited his prodigy days. Academies cited his path as a warning on artistic vulnerability. The original footage surpassed 100 million views, translated widely, endorsed by luminaries and common folk alike, all touched by themes of resilience and redemption. Evelyn kept interactions formal yet frequented sessions, attributing it to oversight. But Liam's renditions stirred something dormant in her visceral pull she had abandoned with her violin 8 years prior. She saw in him the transformative power she had forfeited. The gala evening arrived on a brisk autumn night, New York aglow like a cinematic dream. David Geffen Hall radiated warmth, its exterior mirroring the throng's eagerness. 1,500 influencers in opulent attire, gowns rivaling fortunes, suits from elite tailors, gems fit for vaults filled the seats. Backstage, Liam donned a bespoke tuxedo, his hands now firm from relentless practice. He clutched his mother's photo in his pocket, recalling shared loaves turned festive by her love. Maestro Zane entered. They anticipate a tale the street musician's triumph. Transcend it with pure artistry. The stage call came. Applause greeted his name politely, laced with curiosity for the story over the sounds. Lights blazed, faces merged into judgment. Then keys met fingers, and all vanished. The Goldbergs unfolded with diamond-like accuracy, defying expectations of pathos with sheer command. Chopin delved into nuanced humanity, overwhelming with breadth. Prokofiev unleashed passionate precision. Winter Bred then shattered and remade the listeners, its narrative wordless yet universal, demanding every skill and innovation born of necessity. The closing note bestowed grace. Silence reigned, dividing lives into eras. Applause erupted unanimously, a standing ovation thundering like its own symphony. Liam bowed modestly, eyes locking with Evelyn's, hers tear-streaked, hands over heart, conveying unspoken depths. The acclaim lasted 7 minutes, encores followed. In the wings, Evelyn adjusted his tie, fingers lingering, trembling. Indescribable, she whispered. He thanked her for faith, she countered, crediting him for rekindling her purpose. Amid the reception's glow, she proposed residency. He agreed, eyes speaking volumes. Her hand on his arm felt like destiny as they moved forward, shadows uniting. On a balcony overlooking the glittering city, she confessed her violin sacrifice. Perhaps we need not choose, she mused. In moonlight, barriers dissolved not in passion's rush, but shared resonance. They stood united, warmed by creative fire, his mother's image a bridge from past to future. Music, as promised, had redeemed him, and in Evelyn kindled a harmonious new beginning, sweet with promise and mutual melody.